If I tell you to picture a desert, what comes to mind? I'm guessing endless stretches of sand, no water in sight, and heat, unbearable heat. That was the experience of Hagar, called Hajar in Arabic. She found herself all alone with her baby Ishmael. There she was, trudging alongside her husband Abraham, when suddenly he began walking in the opposite direction, away from her. She couldn't call 911 and ask to be rescued. She had no phone, and there was no such rescue system in place anyway. She was alone in the great unknown. Can you imagine how terrified she must have been? Here she was, a single woman facing what seemed like certain starvation and death. And she didn't just have herself to worry about, she had her young child with her. At that moment, Hagar displayed deep faith and trust in God. It is said that she asked Abraham why he was leaving her. And when he didn't answer, she probed further. "Has God commanded you to do this?" she asked. And when he said yes, she was convinced that God would not abandon her. She submitted herself to the will of God. But she was in a terrible situation. All around as she scanned the horizon, there was no person in sight, no food, no shelter. She was getting thirsty, and her baby began to cry. Frightened and frantic, she didn't sit back and wait for God's deliverance. She ran to a nearby hill, desperately seeking out help, looking for water. She ran to another. She ran back and forth 7 times but found nothing. And that's the first lesson we learned from this story. Trusting in God doesn't mean inaction. We still have to do our part to help ourselves, even if we have nothing to give, and we can't see how we can change our situation. We are still required to make the effort. COVID has caused us great suffering. It seems impossible to overcome. But we take precautions to protect ourselves. We work collectively to develop cures. We help people who are struggling most. We do our best, and then we leave the rest to God. Second, God can provide for us out of nowhere. The actual solution might come from where we never expected it, and it might be bigger and better than what we imagined or prayed for. Hagar was probably hoping someone would come by with a pouch of water that she and her son could drink from. She might have hoped a caravan would be kind enough to rescue her. Instead, God rescued Hagar and Ishmael in a spectacular way, beyond Hagar's wildest imaginations. God caused a spring to burst forth at the heels of Ishmael. Who would have thought that a spring might pop up in the middle of a desert? That she'd be able to quench her thirst and her son's and live on so that her son became a great prophet. Hagar's story shows us that God is capable of anything, so we must not lose hope, even in the most impossible of circumstances. The third lesson we learn is that God can take the simplest of acts and make it something recognized as great. Imagine what state Hagar must have been in as she ran from hill to hill. Sweaty, her clothes disheveled, tears running down her cheeks. She probably didn't look very dignified. But God had a higher purpose in mind. God took that desperate act of hers and elevated it. Her son Ishmael became a prophet, and from his line came the last of prophets, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. That frantic act of hers, found in Mecca, animals and travels and caravans noticed the water and soon built their homes around it. Mecca became a blessed place, home for a great people, and site of the house of God, which millions of people visit yearly. And her running is commemorated by every Muslim who performs Hajj and Umrah in Mecca. Muslims run between the hills 7 times, just like Hagar. They drink from the blessed water that sprang up before Hagar's eyes and continues to flow to this day. She was a simple woman who went through a difficult ordeal, but God elevated her so that her name is still mentioned to this day. What does God have in mind for us? Knowing that God could have a higher purpose changes our perspective and makes everything we're going through, the job losses, uncertainty, lockdowns, physical distancing, it makes everything bearable. It gives us hope and helps us to be patient. I'll be back next time to explore the story of Joseph, on whom be peace. He too was alone in the great unknown. I'm Safiya Ali for Let the Quran Speak.
Look, Safiya, my inbox is full. I have questions from our viewers.
Wow, that's quite a bit.
Your questions are coming out of my ears.
That's why we've got something really exciting planned for you, a YouTube Live Q&A. You can join us live, and Dr. Shabir will answer your questions as they come in.
This event will kick off our special Ramadan programming as well as our fundraising campaign.
It's all happening on Sunday, April 4th at 12 p.m. Eastern on our YouTube channel, Quran Speaks.
And that's right before Ramadan. I can't wait to see what questions we'll get.
Me too. It'll be fun to chat with you in real time.
Subscribe and turn on your notifications so that you don't miss this event.